Welcome. Take a moment to settle into where you are right now. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears and allow the weight of your body to be fully supported by whatever surface is beneath you. Imagine, if you will, that you are resting in a quiet, sun-drenched meadow. It is that soft, golden hour of the afternoon when the light seems to turn everything it touches into a memory. The air is perfectly still, carrying the faint, sweet scent of wild clover and sun-warmed grass. In the distance, there is a sound. It isn't a sharp sound, but a low, steady hum, a resonant vibration that feels less like a noise and more like a heartbeat for the field itself. It is the collective song of thousands of tiny wings, a natural white noise that has existed for millions of years. This sound is a signal that everything is in its right place, that the world is working in harmony. As we begin this journey into the hidden, rhythmic life of the hive, I invite you to gently support this channel by liking this video and subscribing. Your quiet support allows us to keep this space peaceful and dedicated to your rest. Now, if you haven't already, I invite you to softly close your eyes. Let the image of the wide, bright meadow begin to fade, and let your focus narrow. We are moving away from the vastness of the sky and the open fields, drawing closer to the source of that steady, comforting hum. We are approaching a weathered, hollow tree at the edge of the woods, where a small, unassuming opening leads into an ancient and sophisticated world. As we step out of the bright sunlight and into the cool, dappled shade of the hive's entrance, the air changes. It becomes thicker, scented with the rich aroma of beeswax and nectar. The hum grows deeper here, a physical presence that vibrates softly in the air. We are entering the world of the honeybee, a world of incredible precision, quiet devotion, and a deep underlying sense of safety. Here, in the darkness of the hive, there is a profound sense of order. Every movement has a purpose. Every vibration carries a message. It is a place where time moves differently, governed by the cycles of the sun and the needs of the colony. We are no longer just observers. We are stepping into a sanctuary of collective wisdom. As we move further into the heart of this golden city, feel the outside world slip away, replaced by the steady, rhythmic pulse of the hive. This is a place where every individual works as one, a place of warmth and constant, quiet life. Let yourself be carried by the rhythm, sinking deeper into the soft, velvet darkness where the story of the honeybee truly begins. As you move further into the soft, velvet darkness of the hive's interior, you might notice that the air feels different here. It isn't just the stillness or the scent, it is the temperature. There is a deep radiating warmth that seems to emanate from the very walls of this wooden sanctuary. While the world outside might be cooling as the sun dips lower, or perhaps shivering under a morning mist, the climate inside this hidden city never wavers. These honeybees, known to science by the melodic name Apis mellifera, are among the very few insects in the world that can control the temperature of their environment with such incredible precision. They do not simply react to the weather, they create their own. Within the core of the hive, where the youngest life is tended to, the bees maintain a constant, steady heat of 35 degrees Celsius, which is about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a temperature of perfect incubation, a golden mean that allows the colony to thrive. Imagine this warmth as a physical presence, a soft blanket that wraps around everything within these walls. It is a collective effort, a miracle of biology, where thousands of tiny bodies work in a silent, synchronized harmony. To generate this heat, the bees find a rhythm. They decouple their wing muscles, allowing them to vibrate their internal engines with great intensity without actually moving their wings. It is a shimmer of energy, a microscopic shivering that, when multiplied by 10,000, creates a living furnace. This constant temperature is the heartbeat of the colony's health. It is a promise of stability in an ever-changing world. Whether it is the height of a scorching summer or the depth of a silent, frozen winter, the interior of the hive remains a sanctuary of 35 degrees. It is a reliable, unchanging truth. As you contemplate this steady internal glow, I invite you to take a very slow, deep breath. Feel the air enter your lungs, and as you exhale, imagine you are matching the pulse of the hive. Let your own body find that same sense of level, quiet consistency. There is no need to rush, no need to adjust to the world outside. For now, there is only this constant, nurturing warmth. Inhale the stillness and exhale the day. This warmth isn't just floating in the air. It is held and cradled by the very architecture of the home. As we move deeper into the hive, the source of this stability becomes clearer. You begin to see the outlines of the structures that define this space. Vast, intricate walls that stretch from the ceiling to the floor, catching the warmth and holding it close. These are not merely storage units. They are the bones of the city, built with a mathematical grace that seems almost too perfect to be natural. As we turn our attention to these rising walls, we begin to see how the bees have solved one of nature's greatest puzzles: how to create the most amount of space using the least amount of material. The warmth of the colony lives within the geometry of the home. As you settle further into the warmth of the hive, your mind might begin to trace the lines of the walls around you. They are not flat or haphazard. Instead, they are composed of thousands upon thousands of perfect interlocking hexagons. This shape, the six-sided cell, is not a coincidence or a stylistic choice. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering. In the quiet, dim light of the hive, this geometric repetition creates a sense of profound order and peace. The hexagon is, quite simply, the most efficient shape in the known world for this purpose. If the bees had chosen to build in circles, there would be small, wasted gaps between each cell, empty spaces where the warmth could escape and the honey could not rest. If they had chosen squares or triangles, they could have eliminated the gaps, but they would have required much more wax to build the walls. But the hexagon is the perfect middle ground. It uses the least amount of material to create the greatest amount of storage space. It is nature's way of being both frugal and generous at the same time. Within these six-sided cradles, the weight of the honey is distributed with incredible balance. A single pound of beeswax can support over 25 pounds of honey. It is a structure of immense strength, born from a design that is delicate enough to let the light of the sun glow through its translucent walls. The way the bees achieve this perfection is a wonder of its own. They do not have blueprints or measuring tapes, yet every cell's almost identical to the next. They use their own bodies as the ultimate precision tools. A bee will use her antennae to feel the thickness of the wax as she builds, sensing the vibrations to ensure the wall is exactly the right thickness, about 73 micrometers, which is thinner than a human hair. She uses the pull of gravity on her own body to ensure the cells are tilted at a very slight upward angle, just enough to keep the golden nectar from spilling out before it is sealed. There is a quiet, rhythmic beauty in this construction. Thousands of bees work together in the dark, their movements synchronized by a shared understanding of space and form. They are not just building a pantry, they are weaving a tapestry of logic and survival. As you imagine these repeating patterns, 6 sides meeting 6 sides in an endless golden lattice, you might feel a sense of alignment in your own thoughts. Everything is in its right place. There is a slot for every drop of honey, a room for every young life, and a foundation that holds the entire community together. This mathematical grace provides a sense of deep security. It is a reminder that even in the smallest corners of the world, there is a logic that is gentle and enduring. The hive is a place of symmetry, where the chaos of the outside world is distilled into a quiet, structured harmony. But while the shape of the hive is a feat of geometry, the substance itself is a feat of biology. These walls are not made of stone or wood gathered from the forest. They are made from the very essence of the bees themselves. To understand the strength of the hexagon, we must look at the remarkable material that forms its edges, a substance that begins within the bee and hardens into the golden bones of the colony. To create these golden bones, the worker bees must reach deep within their own biology. On the underside of a young worker's abdomen, there are 8 specialized glands that produce liquid wax. As this liquid meets the air, it hardens into tiny translucent flakes, almost like microscopic scales of glass. These flakes are incredibly light, and a bee must produce thousands of them just to build a small section of the comb. Imagine the gentle, focused effort required for this task. A bee will use her stiff leg hairs to pass a single flake up to her mouth. There, she begins to chew it, mixing the wax with her own enzymes and the warmth of her breath. This process transforms the brittle scale into something soft, pliable, and white, much like the consistency of modeling clay or warm candle wax in the heart of the hive, where it is dark and safe. The bees work in a state of constant rhythmic motion. They often hang together in long, living chains called festoons. By linking their legs and bodies, they create a bridge of warmth, ensuring the temperature remains high enough to keep the wax soft and moldable. In this darkness, sight is unnecessary. They feel the shape of the cells with their antennae, sensing the subtle vibrations of the wax to know exactly where to add their contribution. There is a profound tactile beauty in this work. You can almost hear the soft, papery rustle of thousands of tiny jaws and the low, steady hum of bodies generating heat. It is a slow, meditative dance of construction. Every movement is purposeful. Every grain of wax is precious. To produce just 1 pound of this wax, the colony must consume nearly 8 pounds of their stored honey. It is a deep investment of their own energy into the foundation of their home. As you think of these thousands of individuals working together in the dim light, you might notice how their movements are perfectly synchronized. No one is bumping into another. No one is confused about their task. This seamless coordination points to a deeper truth about the hive. It is not just a collection of insects living in the same house. It is something much more complex and unified. The hive functions as a single, massive intelligence, a superorganism. In this world, the individual bee is like a single cell in a much larger body. Just as the cells in your own body work together without being told, each bee knows her place in the whole. This unity is what allows them to build such perfection from nothing but their own bodies and the nectar of the flowers. This social structure is governed by a quiet, invisible wisdom, a hierarchy where every role is vital. And at the very center of this living machine lies a single, steady pulse that keeps the entire colony in rhythm. This concept of the hive as a superorganism is one of the most beautiful and calming ideas in all of biology. To understand the hive, we must shift our perspective. Instead of seeing 50,000 individual insects, try to imagine the colony as a single large animal, a soft, breathing entity made of many parts. In this view, each individual bee is not a whole being, but rather a single cell within a much larger body. Just as the cells in your own body work in perfect harmony without you ever having to tell them what to do, the bees operate with a shared, silent wisdom. There are cells that act as the skin, guarding the entrance and protecting the interior. There are cells that act as the digestive system, processing the nectar and storing energy. And there are cells that act as the immune system, keeping the environment meticulously clean and free of illness. No single bee is in charge in the way we might think of a human leader. There are no spoken commands, no stressful deadlines, and no confusion. Each bee simply feels the needs of the hive through the subtle vibrations of the wax beneath her feet and the delicate scents that drift through the air. It is a life of total, selfless unity. If you were to watch the hive from a distance, you would see a swirling cloud of activity. But if you look closer, you see that every movement is purposeful. It is a decentralized intelligence where the mind of the hive is spread out across every member. This means that even if a few bees are lost, the superorganism continues to breathe, to grow, and to thrive. There is a deep, resonant peace in this lack of individual ego. Within the hive, no one is ever truly alone, and no one is ever without a purpose. They are held together by a bond of biology and scent that is stronger than any physical wall. As you listen to the steady, low-frequency hum of the colony, imagine that you're a part of this rhythm. Feel the sense of security that comes from knowing exactly where you belong. In the world of the bee, there is no such thing as being lost or forgotten. The hive holds everyone in a warm, constant embrace. This collective life is what allows them to achieve things that would be impossible for a single insect. To regulate their own temperature, to store years' worth of food, and to build structures of mathematical perfection. But even a body as vast and complex as this needs a center. Every superorganism requires a heart, a single, steady pulse that defines the identity of the group and ensures that life continues to flow. This central figure is not a general or a dictator, but a mother. She is the quiet, powerful key around which the entire world of the hive revolves. Without her, the thousands of workers would lose their sense of direction. But with her presence, the hive remains a single, focused, and peaceful home. She is the queen, and her story is the story of the hive's very soul. In the quiet, dark heart of the hive, time moves differently than it does in the bright world outside. For a worker bee born in the heat of a busy summer, life is a brief, intense burst of energy. She might live for only 5 or 6 weeks, her tiny, transparent wings eventually wearing thin from the thousands of miles she travels to bring nectar back to her family. But in the center of this swirling, shifting population, there is one constant, steady presence that remains while generations of workers come and go like the blossoms on a fruit tree. This is the queen. While her daughters live lives measured in days, the queen exists on a much longer, more ancient timeline. She can live for up to 5 years, a remarkable span of time for an insect. Because of this longevity, she is the living memory of the hive. She is the thread of continuity that connects the spring to the winter and one year to the next. If you think of the hive as a single, breathing body, the queen is its heart. She does not rule in the way we might imagine a human monarch would. She does not issue commands or demand service. Instead, her role is one of deep, quiet devotion to the future of her people. She is, quite literally, the mother of every single bee in the colony. Every worker and every drone began as a tiny egg laid by her. In the height of the season, she may lay up to 2,000 eggs in a single day, a weight of life greater than her own body mass. It is a rhythmic, meditative task that she performs in the safety of the hive's core, surrounded by a court of worker bees. These attendants never leave her side. They groom her, they feed her the richest nutrients, and they touch her gently with their antennae. This constant contact is how the hive stays connected to its center. As you settle deeper into your own rest, imagine the queen's steady, slow movement across the wax combs. She is larger than the others, with a long, elegant abdomen and a graceful gait. She moves with a sense of calm purpose, never hurried, never frantic. Her presence acts as a grounding force for the 60,000 bees that surround her. As long as she is there, the hive feels a profound sense of peace. There is no anxiety about the future because the mother of the hive is healthy and the cycle of life is continuing as it should. But the queen does more than just provide the next generation. She is the source of the hive's very identity. Even though the hive is dark, every bee within it knows exactly where she is and how she is faring. They don't need to see her or hear her to know she is there. She has a way of reaching out to every individual, from the guards at the entrance to the foragers miles away in the clover fields. It is a silent, invisible form of communication that travels through the colony like a soft, reassuring whisper, letting every bee know that they are part of a whole and that their home is secure. This silent language is the true glue of the superorganism, a scent-based wisdom that ensures the hive remains a single, focused, and perfectly harmonious world. The silent language that coordinates this vast family is one of the most sophisticated communication systems in the natural world. Scientists call it the queen mandibular pheromone, or simply QMP. This is a complex mixture of chemical signals produced by glands in the queen's jaw, and it serves as the ultimate all-is-well signal for the entire colony. It is a molecular whisper that travels through the hive, ensuring that every single bee, from the oldest forager to the youngest nurse, is in perfect sync with the needs of the community. The way this scent spreads is a testament to the hive's interconnectedness. As the queen's close attendants groom her and feed her, they pick up tiny amounts of this pheromone on their bodies. As they move away from her to interact with other bees, they pass these chemical messages along through touch and proximity. In a matter of hours, the queen's unique chemical signature has reached every corner of the dark, bustling city. It is a living network of information, a chemical internet that keeps 60,000 individuals functioning as one. When the levels of QMP are strong and steady, a profound sense of calm settles over the hive. This pheromone acts as a natural stabilizer for the bees' nervous systems. It tells the worker bees that their mother is healthy, that she is fertile, and that the future of the hive is secure. Under the influence of this scent, the workers are content to focus on their specific tasks: cleaning, building, or nursing, without the need for external direction. It even has the power to suppress the reproductive instincts of the workers themselves, channeling all their energy into the collective good. It is the scent of peace, of order, and of home. To a honeybee, the world is not just a collection of sights and sounds, but a rich tapestry of chemical information. Their sense of smell is far more acute than our own, allowing them to detect subtle changes in the environment that we could never perceive. But this is only one way they experience their reality. As we transition from the invisible world of sense to the physical world of the bee's body, we begin to see how perfectly they are built for their environment. Every part of a worker bee is a specialized tool, a finely tuned instrument designed to navigate both the sun-drenched meadows and the velvet darkness of the hive. A worker bee's life is defined by her senses, and as she moves through her day, she relies on a complex array of biological hardware to interpret the world around her. While the queen's scent provides the emotional and social foundation of her life, the worker's physical senses allow her to act upon that foundation with incredible precision. She is a marvel of evolutionary engineering, equipped with sensors that allow her to perceive light, vibration, and texture in ways that are almost alien to our human experience. To understand how she finds her way through the world, we must look closer at her remarkable face and the way she uses her extraordinary vision to turn the sky into a map. In the dim light of the hive and the bright glare of the sun, her eyes are her primary guide. To look into the face of a honeybee is to glimpse a masterpiece of sensory design. While we navigate our world with two eyes, the honeybee experiences her reality through five. It is a visual system so sophisticated that it allows her to perceive the passage of time, the hidden patterns of flowers, and the precise position of the sun, even when it is tucked behind a thick layer of clouds. As you rest now, imagine the world shifting from the singular view we are used to into a shimmering, multifaceted mosaic of light and shadow. The most prominent features on a bee's head are her two large compound eyes. These are the dark, soulful orbs on either side of her face, but they are not single lenses like our own. Instead, each compound eye is made up of thousands of tiny individual lenses called ommatidia, nearly 7,000 in a single worker bee. Each lens captures a small fragment of the world, and together they stitch together a wide-angle view that allows her to see almost all the way around her body at once. To a bee, the world does not hold still. She sees movement in high definition. While a human might see a movie as a continuous stream of motion, a bee would see it as a series of slow, individual still frames. This incredible speed of vision is what allows her to dodge a falling raindrop or land perfectly on a swaying blossom in a sudden gust of wind. But look closer, just at the crown of her head, nestled between those large compound eyes. There, you will find three small shimmering dots, arranged in a tiny triangle. These are the ocelli, her simple eyes. These eyes do not see shapes or colors in the way we think of them. Instead, they are highly sensitive light sensors. Think of them as a biological compass or a steady horizon tracker. They detect the intensity of light and the subtle shifts in the sky's polarization. Even on a gray, overcast afternoon, these three small eyes can pinpoint exactly where the sun is located, providing a constant, unmoving point of reference for her navigation. They are her connection to the heavens, ensuring she always knows the way back to the safety of the hive. Inside the hive, where the sun's rays are filtered and dim, these eyes play a different role. The environment of the colony is a world of deep ambers and velvet shadows. Even here, the bee is never truly in total darkness. Her ocelli are so sensitive that they can pick up the faint ambient glow reflecting off the wax walls or the distant light of the entrance. She perceives the hive as a landscape of gradients, areas of warmth and light contrasting with the cool, dark recesses where the honey is stored. This sense of light and shadow helps her orient her body, knowing instinctively which way is up and which way leads back to the open air. As she moves through the corridors of the hive, her vision begins to blend with her other senses. In the deepest parts of the home, where the light finally fades to nothing, the bee does not feel lost. She simply transitions from the world of sight to the world of feeling. Her journey is no longer guided by the shimmering mosaic of her eyes, but by the delicate rhythmic feedback of her body. Every surface she touches, every vibration she feels through her legs, tells her exactly where she is and who is beside her. This shift from seeing to feeling is seamless and natural, a quiet surrender to the tactile world that surrounds her. In this dim, peaceful space, the visual world recedes and the sense of touch takes over. The air is thick with the scent of wax and the soft warmth of her sisters. She begins to rely on the two most sensitive tools she possesses, her antennae. These long, graceful structures are constantly in motion, reaching out to describe the world in a language of texture and vibration. In the dark, the bee finds her way not by looking, but by reaching out and gently connecting with the architecture of her home. These two delicate, arching structures, the antennae, are far more than just feelers. They are the bee's primary interface with her world, a sophisticated sensory array that allows her to see with her sense of touch. Imagine these antennae as two graceful silver threads reaching out into the velvet darkness of the hive. They are constantly in motion, vibrating with a life of their own, sweeping through the air and across the surfaces of the honeycomb. Each antenna is covered in thousands of microscopic sensory hairs, so sensitive that they can detect the tiniest change in air pressure or the most subtle shift in texture. As the bee moves along the walls of her home, she uses her antenna to read the architecture of the hive. To her, the wax is not just a solid surface, it is a landscape of information. She can feel the microscopic ridges in the wax, the slight stickiness of a freshly sealed cell, and the gentle warmth radiating from the larvae growing within. In the dark, she uses her antennae like a pair of precision calipers, measuring the thickness of the cell walls to within a fraction of a millimeter. This ensures that the comb is always strong enough to hold the heavy weight of the honey, yet light enough to be efficient. It is a world of tactile perfection, where every curve and angle is known and understood through the soft, rhythmic tapping of these sensitive tools. When two sisters meet in a narrow corridor of the hive, they do not simply pass one another in silence. Instead, they pause for a fleeting, graceful moment to engage in a behavior known as antenation. They reach out and gently tap their antennae together, a motion that looks like a delicate, high-speed dance. This is a silent, tactile conversation. Through these brief touches, they exchange chemical signals and physical cues that communicate the needs of the colony. They might share news of a bountiful patch of clover found miles away, or reassure one another that the queen is healthy and the hive is secure. It is a constant, shimmering web of connection, a language of touch that keeps the thousands of individuals moving as one singular, harmonious mind. Listen closely to the imagined sound of this interaction, the soft, nearly silent thrum of chitin against chitin, the rhythmic pulse of a society built on cooperation. There is no shouting here, no discord, just the steady, reassuring flow of information passing from one bee to the next through the darkness. This silent conversation is the heartbeat of the hive, a gentle reminder that no bee is ever truly alone. She is always held within this network of touch, always informed, and always supported by the collective wisdom of her sisters. As we move deeper into the heart of the hive, we begin to see that this constant communication is what allows each bee to find her purpose. A honeybee's life is not a static one. It is a journey of growth and transition. Her roles within the colony change as she ages, a process that ensures every task, from the simplest cleaning to the most complex navigation, is handled by the bee best suited for it. This journey of service begins in the very center of the hive, in the warmest and most protected chambers. Here, we find the youngest members of the colony, bees who have only just emerged from their cells. These young workers, soft and pale, are not yet ready for the bright world outside. Instead, they begin their lives with the most intimate and vital task of all, tending to the next generation, ensuring that the cycle of life within the hive continues, undisturbed and full of promise. These young bees, only a few days old, are known as the nurse bees. Their world is small and intimate, centered entirely on the wax cradles where the next generation sleeps. In the soft amber light of the hive's interior, they move with a quiet, focused grace. They are the caregivers, the ones whose entire existence is dedicated to the nourishment and protection of the tiny lives developing within the hexagonal cells. To do this, the nurse bees produce a remarkable substance, a creamy pearlescent liquid known as royal jelly. It is a nutrient-rich milk secreted from special glands in the nurse bees' heads, a concentrated essence of the colony's health. For the first few days of their lives, every tiny larva is bathed in this precious gift. It is the purest form of sustenance the hive can provide, a biological miracle that fuels the rapid growth of the young. As the larvae grow slightly older, the nurse bees begin to supplement this diet with bee bread. This is a carefully crafted mixture of pollen and honey, fermented with pastoral enzymes that make it easily digestible and incredibly hearty. It is the bread of life for the hive, packed with the proteins and minerals gathered from 1,000 different flowers. Imagine for a moment the quiet atmosphere of this nursery. Thousands of tiny white larvae curled like small translucent crescent moons at the bottom of their cells. They are soft and delicate, and if you were to listen very closely, you might imagine you could hear the faint rhythmic pulse of their development, a soft collective breathing that fills the chamber with a sense of peaceful growth. There is a profound gentleness in this space. A single larva may be visited by the nurse bees over 1,000 times in a single day. Each visit is a brief, silent check-in, a moment where the nurse bee uses her sensitive antenna to feel the larva's needs, ensuring it is well fed, warm, and resting comfortably. This is a labor of pure, quiet devotion. The nurse bees move tirelessly from cell to cell, their delicate legs brushing against the smooth wax walls, their movements creating a low, steady hum that acts as a lullaby for the developing brood. It is a constant, rhythmic cycle of care that never wavers, a testament to the selfless cooperation that defines the life of the bee. In this nursery, time seems to slow down, measured only by the steady growth of the larvae and the patient rounds of their caretakers. But as the days pass, the internal chemistry of these young workers begins to shift. The glands that produce the royal jelly slowly begin to shrink, and a new set of instincts takes hold. The nurse bee, now about 2 weeks old, is entering a new phase of her life. She is no longer tied to the nursery. Her horizons are expanding. She begins to move away from the center of the hive and into the wider corridors, taking on the roles of the house bee. These middle-aged workers are the keepers of the home, the ones who ensure that the environment remains pristine and orderly. They transition from the role of the parent to the role of the architect and the guardian of health, beginning a period of life dedicated to the meticulous maintenance of their golden city. As these middle-aged workers step into their new roles, they become the silent stewards of the hive's health. In the world of the honeybee, Cleanliness is not just a preference. It is a vital necessity for the survival of the entire colony. These house bees take on the essential duties of janitors and undertakers, moving through the dark, fragrant corridors with a singular focus on purity and order. They are the reason the hive remains one of the cleanest environments found in nature. They are incredibly meticulous in their work. Any speck of dust, any stray bit of wax, or any foreign debris that might have been tracked in is promptly located and carried away. They use their mandibles to polish the inner walls of the cells until they shine with a soft, waxy luster, preparing them for the next cycle of life or the storage of golden honey. This constant grooming and cleaning prevent the spread of bacteria and mold, creating an environment that is remarkably sterile. It is a quiet, invisible labor that ensures the hive remains a sanctuary for all who live within its walls. Within this orderly society, even the end of life is handled with a calm, purposeful grace. When a bee completes her journey and passes away within the hive, the undertaker bees are there within moments. They gently carry their fallen sister out through the corridors and away from the colony, ensuring that the living space remains healthy and untainted. There is no chaos in this process, no sense of alarm, only a steady, respectful maintenance of the hive's integrity. It is a final act of service to the community, performed with the same quiet diligence as every other task in the bee's life. There is a profound sense of peace that comes from such absolute order. In the hive, everything has its place. Every cell is either perfectly filled, meticulously cleaned, or carefully prepared for the next generation. There is no clutter, no wasted movement, and no unnecessary noise. It is a masterpiece of organization, a living geometry, where every individual contributes to the harmony of the whole. The house bees move like a gentle tide, washing over the combs and leaving behind a sense of pristine stillness. Take a slow, deep breath now, and let the image of this perfect order settle over you. As you exhale, imagine your own space, the room around you, the bed where you lie, becoming just as clear, just as peaceful, and just as protected as the heart of the hive. Feel the weight of any lingering thoughts or worries being gently lifted away, much like the house bees carry away the small debris of the day. You are in a space of complete safety and rest, where everything is exactly as it should be. Your mind can be as quiet and as polished as a fresh wax cell, ready for deep restorative sleep. Now, we begin to move away from the quiet, polished halls of the interior. We follow the flow of air, which grows slightly cooler and fresher as we move toward the hive's threshold. The golden light of the afternoon begins to peek through the shadows, casting long, soft glows across the wax floors. We are moving toward the entrance, the gateway between the secret, darkened world of the hive and the vast, sunlit meadow outside. Here, at the very edge of the home, the atmosphere changes once more. We encounter a new group of bees standing tall and alert. These are the guards, the silent sentinels who watch over the entrance, ensuring that only those who belong may enter the sanctuary of the hive. As we approach the very edge of the hive, the air begins to swirl with a new energy. The heavy, sweet scent of honey and wax meets the crisp, cool air of the afternoon. Here, at the threshold, the entrance is narrow, a thin slit that allows the bees to monitor who comes and goes with incredible precision. Standing at this gateway are the guard bees, the silent sentinels of the colony. They do not pace or buzz with agitation. Instead, they stand with a quiet, focused dignity, their bodies angled toward the light, their antennae twitching softly as they scan the horizon. The guard bees have a very specific and vital role. They are the keepers of the hive's identity. You see, every honeybee colony has its own unique hive scent. This isn't just a simple smell, but a complex chemical signature, a blend of pheromones produced by the queen and the collective aromas of the nectar and pollen brought back by thousands of sisters over time. It is a living, breathing password that changes slightly with the seasons and the flowers. As a returning forager lands on the wooden board, the guards approach her. They use their sensitive antennae to gently touch her, reading the scent of her body in a fraction of a second. If she carries the scent of the family, she is allowed to pass through the gates without a moment's hesitation. There is a profound sense of security in this recognition. Imagine the relief of a long journey, ending in such a certain welcome, to be known, to be recognized, and to be ushered into the warmth of your home is a feeling of absolute peace. The hive is a fortress, not because of walls and locks, but because of this shared identity. Within these boundaries, every bee is a sister, and every sister is protected. The threshold is the line between the wild, unpredictable world and the stable, nurturing heart of the colony. When a bee crosses that line, she knows she is safe. She knows she belongs. Take a moment to feel that sense of belonging for yourself. Like the bee returning to her sisters, you're in a space where you are safe, where you are recognized, and where you are exactly where you are meant to be. The guards are at the door, and nothing can disturb the tranquility of your rest. You are tucked away, shielded by the collective strength and peace of the home. As we watch the entrance, we notice a bee who is not returning, but preparing to leave. She is a young worker, perhaps just a few weeks old. For her entire life, her world has been the dark, fragrant corridors of the wax combs. She has fed the young, cleaned the floors, and felt the steady hum of the queen's song through her feet. But today, something in her biology has shifted. A new instinct is calling her toward the light. She moves slowly toward the edge of the landing board, her feet gripping the weathered wood. The sun, which she has only ever seen as a faint glow from deep within the hive, now hits her eyes with a brilliant golden intensity. She pauses at the very edge of the precipice. The meadow stretches out before her, a vast ocean of green and gold swaying in the wind. The air here is moving, filled with the scents of clover, lavender, and damp earth. It is a world of infinite possibility and immense scale. She vibrates her wings for a moment, testing the tension of the air, feeling the lift beneath her body. This is a monumental moment in her life. The transition from the safety of the interior to the adventure of the exterior. She is about to take her very first flight, leaving the only home she has ever known, to find the treasures that will sustain her family. With a gentle push, She lets go of the wood and feels the air catch her, lifting her up into the light. As she leaves the solid ground of the landing board, she doesn't immediately dart away into the distance. Instead, she performs a beautiful instinctive ritual known as an orientation flight. To an observer in the meadow, it might look like she is simply hovering, undecided. But there is a profound purpose in every movement she makes. She turns her body around mid-air so that she is facing the hive, the place she has just left. For the first time, she sees the exterior of her home, the weathered texture of the wood, the specific shape of the entrance, and the way the light hits the landing board. She is memorizing the face of her world. She begins to drift in slow, rhythmic arcs. At first, these circles are small, only a few feet away from the hive's entrance. She hovers there, her wings a soft, steady blur, as she takes in the immediate surroundings. She is looking for landmarks, tiny details that we might overlook, but that are vital to her survival. Perhaps it is a specific cluster of wildflowers near the base of the hive, or a particular branch of a nearby apple tree that hangs at a certain angle. These are the anchors of her memory. With each passing moment, her circles grow wider and higher. She is spiraling upward into the warm blue sky, expanding her field of vision. She sees the hive now as a small box nestled in the vast green sea of the meadow. She notes the position of the tall hedgerow, the silver glint of a distant stream, and the dark silhouette of the forest edge. This is the process of building a mental map, a three-dimensional landscape that she will carry with her whenever she leaves home. It is a quiet, focused kind of learning, a gentle gathering of knowledge that ensures she will always be able to find her way back to the safety of her sisters. Imagine yourself drifting with her in these slow, lazy loops. There is no rush, no urgency. The air is calm, and the sun is a warm weight on your back. As she circles, the world below becomes a tapestry of colors and shapes, all fitting together in a perfect logical order. She is learning the language of the land, the way the shadows fall, and the way the wind moves through the grass. This map she is creating is not made of paper or ink, but of light and lived experience. It is a map of safety, a map of home. As she reaches the peak of her spiral, she pauses for a heartbeat suspended in the bright, clear air. She has seen enough to know where she is. The landmarks are locked into her mind, etched there by the repetition of her flight. She feels a deep sense of orientation, a knowing that no matter how far she travels in search of nectar, the path back is clear and certain. She is no longer just a resident of the hive. She is becoming a part of the wider world. This incredible ability to navigate isn't just based on the things she sees on the ground. As she hovers there, she is also calibrating her internal compass. She is looking upward, acknowledging the greatest landmark of all. Even as the clouds drift lazily by, she is tuning into a source of direction that is far more constant than any tree or stone. She is beginning to understand the role of the sun, the golden anchor that governs the movement of every creature in the meadow. From this height, the sun isn't just a source of warmth. It is a fixed point in the sky, a reliable guide that will lead her through the vastness of the day. The sun is more than just a source of warmth for the honeybee. It is her most trusted navigator. Even as she hovers in the light light-drenched air, her complex eyes are performing a feat of biological engineering that allows her to perceive the world in a way we can only imagine. She possesses a built-in sun compass, a way of knowing exactly where she is in relation to that great golden orb. But what is truly remarkable is that she doesn't even need to see the sun directly to know where it is. On days when the clouds gather into a soft gray blanket, the bee is never lost. She can detect the polarization of light, a quality of the atmosphere that remains invisible to our human eyes. To her, the sky is not just a vast blue or gray expanse. It is a structured map, filled with patterns of light that point toward the sun like the steady, unwavering needle of a compass. Imagine the sky as a grand vaulted ceiling covered in a delicate, glowing grid. This grid is formed by the way sunlight scatters as it enters our atmosphere, creating a texture in the light itself. Even through the thickest clouds, these patterns of polarized light remain, providing a reliable celestial blueprint. For the bee, this means the sky is never silent or empty. It is a constant, shimmering guide that tells her which way is north, south, east, and west. She carries an internal clock within her too, a rhythmic biological understanding of how the sun moves across the horizon as the hours pass. She knows that the sun she sees in the morning will be in a different place by the afternoon, and she adjusts her mental map accordingly with a precision that is nothing short of breathtaking. As you breathe slowly and deeply, matching the gentle, unhurried rhythm of the meadow, think of this golden path through the air. It is a bridge made of light, connecting the safety of the hive to every corner of the world. There is a profound sense of peace in this reliability. No matter how far she wanders, no matter how many zigzags she takes through the tall grass, the sky remains her steady anchor. She is never truly alone in the vastness, for she is always held by the geometry of the heavens. This connection to the cosmos gives her the confidence to fly further, to explore the unknown, knowing that the way home is written in the very light that surrounds her. It is a quiet, certain kind of safety. Now, with her internal compass set and her landmarks memorized, she feels a new pull, a subtle, sweet invitation drifting on the morning breeze. It is the scent of the first flowers, a fragrant call that ripples through the air like a whisper. She tilts her wings, catching a warm updraft, and begins her journey toward the edge of the woods where the wildflowers grow in abundance. The world is opening up to her now, no longer just a series of shapes and colors, but a vibrant landscape of opportunity. She is moving from the abstract geometry of the sky to the tactile, living beauty of the earth. Ready to begin her delicate dance with nature, the meadow waits for her, a treasure trove of hidden secrets, and she flies toward it with a steady, purposeful hum, guided by the sun and the silent, beautiful language of the light. She is about to discover that the flowers have been waiting for her too, preparing a secret map of their own that only she can see. To our eyes, a meadow is a tapestry of familiar colors, the soft yellows of primrose, the deep purples of clover, and the bright whites of daisies. But as the honeybee nears these blossoms, she sees a world that is invisible to us. While our vision is limited to the rainbow of the visible spectrum, the bee possesses the extraordinary ability to see into the ultraviolet. This hidden dimension of light reveals a secret map, a silent language written by the flowers specifically for her. Imagine a simple, solid yellow flower, swaying gently in the breeze. To us, it is uniform and plain, but to the bee, that same flower might have a dark, dramatic bullseye at its center, or intricate glowing stripes that radiate outward like a landing strip at an airport. These are known as nectar guides. They are patterns of ultraviolet light that act as nature's own signage, pointing the way toward the heart of the flower where the sweet nectar is hidden. It is a beautiful symbiotic design. The flower uses these hidden markings to ensure the bee finds exactly what she is looking for, and in exchange, the bee helps the flower grow. As you lie there, drifting closer to sleep, imagine this hidden beauty that exists all around us, just beyond the reach of our senses. The world is full of these quiet, secret maps, designed with a precision and a grace that we are only beginning to understand. For the bee, every petal is a velvet canvas painted with glowing paths of light. There is no guesswork in her journey. She is invited into the heart of the bloom by these soft, luminous guides. She follows them with a sense of ease and belonging, moving from one flower to the next, as if she is reading a story written in light. This hidden map creates a profound sense of harmony in the meadow. The flowers do not just wait passively. They actively call out to their partners in a frequency that only the chosen can hear and see. It is a private conversation between the earth and the sky, a relationship built on trust and mutual need. The bee feels the pull of these ultraviolet patterns, a gentle magnetic draw that guides her wings until she is hovering just inches above a soft, fragrant petal. She slows her flight, her wings creating a low, rhythmic thrum that matches the steady pulse of the meadow. As she prepares to land, she feels the delicate texture of the flower beneath her feet. The petals are soft, like the finest silk, and they yield slightly under her weight. Here, in the quiet center of the bloom, the visual world gives way to the tactile. The secret map has led her home to the source. As she begins to move, her fuzzy body brushes against the flower stamens, and she feels the first fine grains of golden dust clinging to her hair. This is the start of a new physical process, a gathering of life that she will carry with her. The nectar guides have done their work, leading her to this moment of connection, where the air is thick with the scent of summer, and the world feels perfectly, beautifully in balance. She settles into the work with a quiet diligence, feeling the weight of the meadow's future beginning to gather on her very skin. As she moves through the heart of the bloom, the bee begins a meticulous process of gathering. While the nectar she sips is stored internally in a special honey stomach, the pollen, the protein-rich dust of the meadow, is handled with a different kind of artistry. On her hind legs, she possesses something truly remarkable: small concave structures fringed with stiff hairs known to scientists as corbiculae, but often called pollen baskets. These are her saddlebags, designed by nature to hold the weight of the harvest. You can almost feel the rhythmic grace of her movements as she works. Using her front and middle legs like tiny, nimble brushes, she combs the golden dust from the velvet hairs of her thorax and abdomen. She moistens the pollen with a tiny drop of nectar, just enough to make it tacky. And then, with a series of swift practice motions, she presses it into the baskets on her legs. It is a quiet, meditative labor. One by one, the grains are packed together until they form bright, bulging pellets of gold, orange, or deep crimson, depending on the flower she has chosen. There is a profound sense of satisfaction in this work. Each pellet represents hundreds of individual flowers visited, a testament to her diligence and the meadow's generosity. As the baskets grow heavy, she feels the shift in her center of gravity. She is no longer the light, airy traveler that left the hive at dawn. She is now a vessel of life, carrying the concentrated essence of the sun-drenched fields back to her family. This weight is not a burden, but a purpose. It is the physical manifestation of a job well done, a harvest that will ensure the survival of the next generation. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine that same sense of quiet accomplishment. Like the bee packing her golden cargo, you can allow the events of your day to be gathered up and set aside. Everything you have done is enough. Your efforts are complete, and like the heavy baskets on the bee's legs, your experiences are now safely tucked away, ready to be integrated into the peace of the night. As she prepares to leave the flower, the bee must contend with the incredible reality of her own biology. She is now significantly heavier, sometimes carrying nearly half her own body weight in nectar and pollen. To the casual observer, her flight might seem impossible. A small, fuzzy body supported by wings that appear far too delicate for such a load. Yet, the physics of her world are different from ours. She does not simply glide on the air, she commands it. She adjusts her stance on the petal, feeling the slight sway of the flower in the breeze. Her golden baskets are secure, and her focus shifts from the tactile world of the bloom to the vast open sky above. The journey home requires a different kind of energy, a transition from the stillness of gathering to the intense, rhythmic power of flight. As she pushes off from the silk-soft petal, she enters a realm of pure vibration, where the laws of aerodynamics are rewritten by the sheer persistence of her will. The meadow below begins to blur as she rises, her body humming with the effort of carrying the meadow's treasure back to the safety of the hive. As she rises above the petals, the air around her begins to vibrate with a sudden, powerful resonance. To our human ears, it is a gentle, fuzzy thrum, but for the bee, it is the very engine of her existence. A honeybee's wings are a marvel of biological engineering, beating approximately 230 times every single second. This incredible speed is what allows her to stay aloft, even when her body is heavy with the nectar of 100 blossoms. If you were to watch her in slow motion, you would see that her wings do not simply flap up and down like those of a bird. Instead, they move in short, rapid arcs, sweeping back and forth like tiny oars in a sea of air. This unique motion creates a constant swirling vortex of lift, a shimmering halo that keeps her steady against the tug of gravity. It is a rhythmic, tireless pulse, a testament to the quiet strength contained within such a small creature. This rapid vibration produces the signature low-frequency hum that we associate with a summer afternoon. It is a sound that seems to resonate with the very earth itself, a deep, earthy note that signals the world is in balance. As she flies across the meadow, this hum acts as a sort of natural white noise, a steady, vibrating pulse that seems to lull the wildflowers and the tall grasses into a peaceful state of being. Imagine that sound now, a soft, distant zzz that isn't sharp or intrusive, but rather a warm, comforting drone that fills the spaces between the trees. It is the sound of life moving with purpose, a sound that invites you to let go of the day's distractions and sink into the steady rhythm of the natural world. The bee is now a golden speck against the blue of the sky, her internal compass locked onto the coordinates of home. Despite the weight of the pollen baskets on her legs and the nectar stored within her, she moves with grace and certainty. The sun serves as her guiding light, its position in the sky telling her exactly which path to take over the rolling hills and through the stands of ancient oaks. She is part of a grand invisible network, a golden thread connecting the distant flowers to the heart of the colony. As the familiar scent of the hive begins to drift toward her on the breeze, her flight patterns shift. She descends from the heights of the air, the bright, expansive world of the meadow narrowing down to the specific, weathered wood of the hive's entrance. The hum of her wings changes pitch slightly as she slows her approach, transitioning from the high-energy travel of the open sky to the delicate precision of landing. She touches down on the landing board with a soft, tactile click, her legs instantly gripping the familiar surface. She is home, but her work is not yet finished. She carries within her the map to a treasure trove of clover and lavender, and the rest of the colony is waiting to hear her news. She moves quickly toward the dark, inviting entrance, leaving the bright sunlight behind as she steps into the crowded, aromatic warmth of the hive. The transition from the vastness of the sky to the intimate, bustling interior is seamless. Here, in the dim light, she will perform a ritual as old as time itself, translating her journey through the air into a language of movement and vibration that her sisters will understand perfectly. She is ready to share the story of the meadow, ensuring that the bounty she found will be gathered by many more wings before the sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon. Inside the hive, the bright gold of the sun is replaced by a deep velvet darkness, scented heavily with the aroma of beeswax, propolis, and ripening honey. Our forager does not need her eyes here. She navigates by the steady, familiar pull of gravity and the tactile map of the comb beneath her feet. She moves with purpose toward a crowded area of the hive where her sisters are waiting. This is the stage for one of nature's most beautiful and complex performances, a language not of sound, but of rhythm, vibration, and grace. She begins the waggle dance. In the dim light, she moves in a precise figure-8 pattern across the vertical surface of the wax. Imagine her tracing a straight line upward, her abdomen shaking rapidly from side to side in a rhythmic shimmy before circling back to the start, first to the left and then to the right. To the bees surrounding her, this is not merely movement. It is a sophisticated set of instructions, a mathematical poem that describes her journey through the meadow. The duration of her central waggle is a measurement of distance. For every second she vibrates her body, she is telling her sisters that the flowers are roughly 1 kilometer away. A short, energetic waggle means the treasure is close. A long, sustained vibration speaks of a journey far across the hills. The intensity of her dance conveys the richness of the find. The more abundance she found in the clover, the more vigorously she dances, her excitement rippling through the wax to the bees standing nearby. Even more incredible is how she communicates direction. Since the hive is dark and vertical, she uses the force of gravity to represent the position of the sun. If she waggles straight up the comb, she is telling the colony to fly directly toward the sun. If she dances at a 30-degree angle to the right of vertical, her sisters know to fly 30 degrees to the right of the sun's current position in the sky. It is a breathtaking feat of abstract thought, translating the vast three-dimensional world of the sky into a two-dimensional dance performed in the dark. Her sisters crowd around her, their antennae gently tapping her body, reading the vibrations, and catching the faint, sweet scent of lavender and thyme that still clings to her. They are absorbing the map, feeling the coordinates through their very legs. In this moment, the hive is a single, focused mind, sharing a vision of a distant field. There is a profound sense of unity in this silent conversation, a shared purpose that ensures the survival of the whole. As the dance concludes, the forager begins the handoff. She meets a receiver bee, a younger worker who has spent her day within the safety of the hive. In a gentle, communal act of sharing, the forager passes the nectar she has collected to her sister. This liquid, which was only moments ago the lifeblood of a flower, is now the raw material for the hive's most precious resource. The receiver bee takes the nectar into her own honey stomach, where special enzymes begin the slow, patient process of breaking down complex sugars. The transformation has begun. The nectar is still watery and thin, far from the thick, golden honey it will eventually become. It must be passed from bee to bee, moved deeper into the heart of the hive, where the environment is perfectly controlled. The forager, her burden lifted and her story told, may now take a moment of quiet rest in a peaceful corner of the comb, her antenna drooping slightly as she feels the warmth of the colony envelop her. Meanwhile, the nectar begins its final journey, carried by steady legs toward the storage cells, where the collective breath of the hive will finish what the sun and the flowers started. The nectar, now carefully deposited into the hexagonal wax cells, is still far from the honey we know. In its raw state, it is mostly water, thin, clear, and delicate. To transform this floral essence into the thick, golden treasure of the hive, the bees must perform a collective act of patience and physics. They begin by fanning. Imagine, if you will, thousands of bees throughout the hive, standing firm on the wax, their bodies anchored as they beat their wings in a perfectly synchronized rhythm. They are not flying, they are breathing for the colony. This constant, rapid motion creates a soft, steady breeze that moves through the narrow corridors of the hive, a cooling wind that carries with it the sweet, heavy scent of 1,000 different flowers. As this collective breath passes over the open cells, the excess water in the nectar begins to evaporate. It is a slow, methodical process, a quiet transformation that happens one molecule at a time. The bees are nature's master chemists, using the air they move to concentrate the sugars and thicken the liquid. This fanning is more than just a mechanical task. It is a lullaby for the hive, a low-frequency hum that resonates through the very walls of their home. If you were to place your ear against the hive at night, you would hear this deep, resonant thrum, the sound of 1,000 tiny fans working in the dark to preserve the harvest of the sun. It is a comforting, rhythmic pulse, much like the sound of distant waves or a steady rain, designed by nature to maintain the perfect balance of the home. While the wings do their work, a quiet chemical change is also taking place within each drop of nectar. The enzymes added by the bees, specifically one called invertase, work to break down the complex sugars of the nectar into simpler ones like glucose and fructose. This not only makes the honey a highly efficient source of energy, but also gives it its signature soothing sweetness. But there is another, more miraculous element at play. As the bees process the nectar, they produce a small amount of hydrogen peroxide. This natural compound, combined with the high acidity and low moisture content of the finished honey, creates an environment where bacteria and microorganisms simply cannot survive. In this way, the bees are not just making food. They are creating a substance that is essentially immortal. Because of this unique chemistry, honey does not spoil. It is a time capsule of a summer afternoon sealed away in wax, while the flowers that provided the nectar will fade with the coming frost, and the bees who gathered it will eventually pass away. The honey they create remains unchanged by the passage of years. It is a liquid gold that defies the reach of time, a testament to the meticulous care and the steady, rhythmic labor of the hive. As the nectar thickens and reaches its perfect consistency, the bees recognize that the work is complete. The water content has dropped to just under 18%, a precise balance that ensures the honey will stay fresh for centuries. Now, the worker bees move in to seal the cells with a thin, delicate layer of fresh white wax. This capping is the final touch, an airtight seal that protects the honey from the moisture in the air. Inside these tinny waxen vaults, the essence of the meadow is held in a state of perfect preservation, waiting to provide energy and warmth when the world outside turns cold and gray. You can almost feel the satisfaction of the hive as each cell is closed, a sense of security that ripples through the colony. The harvest is safe, the pantry is full, and the steady, cooling breeze of the fanning wings begins to soften into a gentle, sleepy vibration. This golden substance is more than just sustenance. It is a miracle of preservation, a gift from the bees that remains as sweet and pure today as it was the moment it was sealed. This golden viscous liquid is a marvel of the natural world, standing as the only food produced by an insect that we, as humans, gather and enjoy. When you think of a spoonful of honey, you are tasting the collective effort of thousands of bees and the nectar of millions of individual flowers. It is, quite literally, the essence of summer, captured and concentrated into a single glowing drop. Each jar of honey holds the memory of 1,000 sunny afternoons, the scent of clover, the vibration of the meadow, and the warmth of the sun that fueled the growth of every blossom. Because of its unique chemistry, its low moisture, and natural acidity, honey is effectively immortal. It is a substance that exists outside the normal cycle of growth and decay. Archaeologists exploring the silent, dark chambers of ancient Egyptian tombs have discovered pots of honey that are over 3,000 years old. When they opened these jars in the quiet of the desert, the honey was still thick, still amber, and perfectly edible. It had sat in the cool darkness for millennia, changed by the rise and fall of civilizations, as if waiting patiently for someone to finally taste the captured sunlight of a long-forgotten spring. There is something deeply comforting in that level of permanence, the idea that something so sweet and life-giving can remain completely untouched by the passage of time. Imagine that stillness, the way the honey rests in its jar or its waxen cell, never shifting, never spoiling. It is a profound form of preservation. In the heart of the hive, these golden stores represent more than just food. They are a promise of survival, a reservoir of energy that ensures the colony can weather any storm. The bees have created a treasure that defies the very nature of change. As you lie here, perhaps you can imagine that same sense of timelessness, a feeling of being suspended in a warm golden moment where there is no rush, no pressure, and nothing that needs to be done. You are safe, much like that ancient honey, protected and preserved in the quiet of the present moment. But while honey is the treasure within the vault itself must be kept incredibly secure. For a hive to remain a sanctuary of health and warmth, it requires more than just wax and honey. It needs a way to seal out the dampness of the autumn rain and the biting chill of the winter night air. It needs a substance that can mend cracks, reinforce the structure against the wind, and keep the environment inside perfectly sterile and free from intruders. This brings us to another remarkable material the bees use, a substance often called bee glue. Just as they gather nectar for food, the bees also seek out the resinous lifeblood of trees to create a powerful protective sealant known as propolis, the final piece of the hive's architecture of safety. To find this bee glue, the foragers must look beyond the colorful petals of the meadow and toward the ancient steady presence of the forest. They seek out the resinous lifeblood of trees, the sticky aromatic sap found on the buds of poplars, birches, and conifers. This resin is the tree's own defense system, a thick liquid used to heal its bark and protect its growth from infection. The bees recognize this power. They carefully gather the droplets of resin, packing them into their pollen baskets, just as they do with the dust of flowers. But unlike nectar or pollen, this resin is not for eating. It is brought back to the hive to be blended with wax and enzymes, transforming into propolis, a substance so vital that the ancient Greeks named it propolis, meaning before the city or the city's defense. Inside the hive, propolis serves as the ultimate multi-purpose tool. It is a natural caulk used to seal every tiny gap and crevice that might allow a cold draft or a drop of rain to enter the sanctuary. The bees use it to smooth out the internal walls of their home, creating a surface that is as polished and clean as a surgical suite. It acts as a structural reinforcement, making the hive an airtight, vibration-proof fortress against the elements. When the winds of autumn begin to howl outside, the bees use propolis to narrow the hive's entrance, physically creating a smaller doorway to keep the warmth of the colony trapped inside. It is a remarkable feat of engineering, ensuring that no matter how the weather changes on the outside, the world inside remains steady, dry, and safe. Beyond its physical strength, propolis provides a layer of invisible protection. It is a powerful natural antibiotic, antifungal, and antiviral agent. By lining the cells and the walls of the hive with this resin, the bees are essentially creating a sterile environment. It purifies the air and prevents the spread of disease within the crowded, warm space of the colony. It is a form of social immunity where the very architecture of the home keeps the inhabitants healthy. Every surface a bee touches is coated in this protective, healing varnish, ensuring that the hive remains one of the cleanest places in the natural world. As you lie there, perhaps you can imagine your own surroundings being sealed in this same way. Visualize a soft, protective layer enveloping your room, smoothing over every edge and closing every gap to the outside world. Feel the air around you becoming perfectly still and pure. There is no noise from the street, no draft from the window, and no weight of responsibility from the day behind you. You are in your own sanctuary, an airtight space of absolute safety, where the only thing that matters is the rhythm of your own breath. Much like the bees inside their propolis-lined home, you are insulated from the world, held in a space that is clean, quiet, and profoundly secure. But within this fortress of wax and resin, there is another group of bees who live a very different life than the diligent workers. While the female workers are busy gathering nectar, cleaning the cells, and sealing the cracks, there are others who move with a slower, more singular purpose. These are the drones, the male bees of the hive. They do not have stingers to defend the entrance, nor do they have the specialized baskets on their legs to carry pollen. They do not make wax and they do not gather propolis. Their presence in the hive is a unique part of the colony's rhythm, a different kind of energy that exists within the quiet, protected walls of the city of bees. Unlike the workers who seem to be in constant motion, the drones spend much of their time resting in the warmth of the hive, waiting for the perfect moment to fulfill their one vital role in the cycle of life. The drones are the gentle giants of the hive, physically broader and heavier than the workers. If you were to look closely at a drone, the first thing you would notice are his eyes. They are truly magnificent, far larger than those of the female bees. While a worker's eyes are placed on the sides of her head, a drone's compound eyes are so vast that they actually meet at the top of his head, forming a single, continuous, wraparound visor of vision. This is a highly specialized adaptation designed for one specific purpose, the mating flight. High in the air, against the blinding brightness of the afternoon sun, the drone uses these panoramic eyes to spot a queen from great distances. He is a creature of the sky built for a singular, high-altitude mission that requires absolute visual precision. Yet, inside the hive, this intense focus translates into a quiet, almost meditative presence. Because drones do not have the tools for work, they lack the pollen baskets, the wax glands, and even a stinger. They spend their days in a state of restful waiting. They move slowly through the hive, often being fed by their sisters, adding their larger bodies to the collective warmth of the colony. There is a certain peace in their existence. They do not participate in the frantic bustle of the nectar exchange or the meticulous cleaning of the floors. They are the calm observers in the heart of the city, their deep, low-frequency buzzing contributing to the heavy resonant vibration that makes the hive feel so stable and alive. As you listen to the imagined hum of these drones, Allow your own body to adopt that same sense of singular, quiet focus. You don't need to look at a screen, you don't need to check a clock, and you certainly don't need to worry about the tasks of tomorrow. Like the drone resting in the golden shadows of the wax comb, your only job right now is to be still. Feel the weight of your limbs, heavy and relaxed, supported entirely by the surface beneath you. The world outside is vast and bright, but here, in the dim, warm safety of your room, you're allowed to simply exist. This atmosphere of stillness is nowhere more apparent than in the nursery of the hive. Every bee you see, whether a massive-eyed drone or a diligent worker, began its life in the same quiet way. It starts with the queen, the mother of the colony, moving with measured grace across the brood comb. She inspects each hexagonal cell with her antennae, ensuring it has been polished to a mirror shine by the house bees. When she is satisfied, she carefully deposits a single tiny egg at the very bottom of the cell. This egg is a marvel of minimalism. It is white, slender, and no larger than a tiny speck of dust or a single grain of fine sand. For the first 3 days of its existence, the egg stands perfectly upright, glued to the floor of its wax cradle. There is no movement, no sound, and no sign of the complex life that is about to unfold. It is a period of pure potential, a silent wait in the dark. During these 72 hours, the life within the egg is organizing itself, preparing for the first of many transformations. The presence of the drones reminds us that every member of the hive, no matter their role, is part of a much larger story, a story that begins in the silent, hidden depths of the brood nest. It is the very beginning of the honeybee's journey, from a microscopic spark to a vital part of the superorganism, a journey that requires immense patience and the perfect, steady warmth of the cluster. On the 4th day, the tiny egg gently leans over, as if it too is succumbing to the weight of a heavy, peaceful sleep. It hatches into a larva, a small, pearly white creature that looks like a tiny crescent moon resting at the bottom of its wax cradle. This is the beginning of a period of incredible, silent growth. The larva is soft and defenseless, completely reliant on the steady, radiating warmth of the hive and the constant, gentle care of the nurse bees. At this stage, the life of the bee is defined by a singular, quiet purpose: to grow. In just a few days, the larva will increase its weight more than 1,000 times. Because it grows with such astonishing speed, its outer skin cannot stretch fast enough to keep up. To accommodate this expansion, the bee larva must shed its skin, a process known as molting, 5 separate times. Each molt is a quiet milestone, a rhythmic shedding of the old to make room for the new. Imagine the patience required for such a transformation, tucked away in the velvet darkness of a wax cell. There is no rushing this process. It happens in its own time, governed by the ancient, steady laws of biology. Think of these 5 stages as a slow, meditative progression. Each time the larva sheds its skin, it emerges slightly larger and more complex. Yet it remains in a state of deep, focused existence. It is a lesson in the quiet power of incremental change. We often feel the need to transform ourselves all at once, but the bee reminds us that growth is often a series of small, necessary releases. Like the larva, you are allowed to shed the weight of your day layer by layer until you are ready for the deep rest that leads to renewal. Once the larva has reached its full size and finished its final meal, it stretches out within the cell, sensing that its time of active feeding has come to an end. The nurse bees, attuned to the subtle chemical signals of the brood, move in to seal the cell with the porous cap of wax and pollen. This is the capping, the signal that the final, most mysterious stage of development is about to begin. Inside this private, darkened chamber, the larva begins to spin a delicate silk cocoon around itself. This silk is fine and shimmering, produced from special glands near the mouth. The bee moves in slow, rhythmic circles, wrapping itself in a soft, protective blanket that will shield it during its final transformation. Beneath this wax cap and within the silk cocoon, the bee enters the pupal stage. This is perhaps the most profound stillness to be found anywhere in the hive. The creature that entered the cell as a simple, worm-like larva begins to dissolve and roam legs, wings, complex antennae, and those magnificent multifaceted diggies begin to take shape out of the quiet mystery of the pupa. It is a period of total surrender to the process of becoming. The bee does not struggle. It simply rests in the warmth, allowing its body to be rebuilt in the silence. This deep, transformative stillness is the ultimate expression of the hive's rhythm. It is a reminder that even the most industrious creatures on Earth require periods of absolute inactivity to reach their full potential. This balance between work and rest is a fundamental law of the natural world. Even the adult bees, who seem to be in constant motion, understand the necessity of pulling back from the world. Just as the pupa rests in its silk cocoon, the older bees also find moments to withdraw into the quiet architecture of the hive, seeking the restorative power of a stillness that mirrors our own journey into sleep. It was once thought that honeybees were the eternal workers of the natural world, creatures that never knew the touch of exhaustion. But we now know that even the most diligent honeybee requires the grace of sleep. In the quietest hours, when the sun has dipped below the horizon and the meadow has grown cool, the hive undergoes a subtle shift. The frantic energy of the day begins to settle like dust falling in a shaft of light. The honeybee, often the symbol of tireless industry, is not a machine. It is a living, breathing being that eventually succumbs to the same heavy-lidded pull of rest that we do. For a long time, it was a mystery whether insects truly slept or if they simply paused. But when we look closely at the hive during the hushed hours of the night, we see the unmistakable signs of deep, restorative slumber. A sleeping bee is a beautiful sight of complete surrender. You might find her tucked into a cell that isn't currently being used for honey or brood, or perhaps clinging to the edge of the comb in a quiet, shadowed corner of the hive. When she sleeps, her entire posture changes. The most telling sign is her antennae. During the day, these are her primary tools for navigation and communication, constantly twitching and tasting the air with alert precision. But as sleep takes hold, the muscles at the base of the antennae relax. They begin to droop, tilting downward toward the floor of the hive in a soft, graceful curve. It is the bee's version of closing her eyes. It is a signal to the rest of the world that she is no longer available, that she has retreated into her own inner landscape. As her antennae fall still, her body undergoes other changes. Her legs, which have spent hours gripping flower petals and carrying heavy loads of pollen, may go slightly slack. Her abdomen, which usually pulses with the rhythm of her breathing, slows its pace. Most remarkably, her internal body temperature begins to drop. The high-octane heat of a foraging bee, necessary for the rapid firing of wing muscles, fades away. She becomes cool, her metabolism slowing to a gentle simmer. She is no longer a part of the hive's frantic commerce. She is an island of stillness in a sea of warmth. Take a moment now to imagine that sensation of cooling down. Feel the warmth of your own bed, but imagine your mind and body slowing, just as the bee's does. The day's tasks are finished. The wing beats of your thoughts are slowing from a frantic hum to a steady, low vibration, and finally to a complete and heavy silence. There is nowhere you need to go, and nothing you need to gather. Like the bee in her quiet corner, you are safe, protected by the walls of your home and the rhythm of the night. In this state of deep rest, the bee is doing more than just recovering her physical strength. Sleep serves a purpose far beyond simple muscle repair. Even in a brain as small as a sesame seed, complex processes are at work. Scientists have observed that bees go through different stages of sleep, moving from a light rest to a deeper, more profound state where they are difficult to wake. It is during these deep cycles that the brain begins to organize the vast amount of information gathered during the day. As the bee remains motionless in the dark, her mind is revisiting the world outside. She is not merely off, she is processing. The maps of the meadow, the scents of the lavender, and the locations of the richest clover patches are all being etched into her long-term memory. This leads us to a fascinating possibility, one that bridges the gap between the insect world and our own. If the bee's brain is active and processing the day's events while she sleeps, we must wonder what she is experiencing in that darkness. We begin to see that the bee's rest is not just a void, but a rich internal journey. Inside that tiny resting mind, a profound process is unfolding. Scientific research suggests that honeybees, much like ourselves, use their sleep to consolidate the vast amounts of information they have gathered during their waking hours. As she remains perfectly still, her brain is busy strengthening the neural pathways that hold the map of her world. She is not merely resting, she is learning in her sleep. She is revisiting the waggle dance she watched earlier in the day, recalculating the angle of the sun and the distance to the richest clover patches. The brain of the bee, though small, is capable of a remarkable sort of replay, ensuring that when she wakes, the path to the flowers will be as familiar to her as the corridors of her own home. In this deep restorative state, we can imagine the bee is experiencing a version of what we call dreaming. In the darkness of the hive, her mind may be filled with the ghost of a summer afternoon. She might feel the weight of the golden pollen baskets on her legs, or the sweet floral scent of lavender as it drifts on a warm breeze. In her mind's eye, the ultraviolet landing strips on the petals of a wildflower, invisible to us but vibrant to her, shimmer with an ethereal light guiding her toward the nectar. She is flying through a meadow of clover, the sun a constant, reliable warmth against her back, the air a gentle resistance against her wings. It is a world of abundance, a world where every flower is a promise and every flight is a success. Take a slow, deep breath and let your own mind drift into that meadow with her. Imagine the soft purple of the lavender fields and the swaying white heads of the clover. There is no urgency here, only the steady rhythmic pulse of a summer day that never truly ends. Like the bee, you're allowing your mind to sort through the day, keeping what is beautiful and letting the rest fade into the shadows. You are safe, you are warm, and you are exactly where you need to be. But as the nights in the meadow grow longer and the air loses its golden liquid warmth, the nature of the bee's rest begins to change. The individual sleep of a summer night is a preparation for the next day's work. But as the seasons turn, the hive must prepare for a much longer period of stillness. The vibrant greens of the meadow fade into the deep ochres and browns of autumn, and the flowers that provided the nectar for the summer's honey begin to bow their heads. The hive senses this shift. The frantic energy of the harvest slows, replaced by a focused collective effort to protect the heart of the colony. The honey is stored, the cracks are sealed with propolis, and the bees prepare for the coming cold. This transition from the bright, busy days of summer to the quiet, huddling survival of winter is one of the most remarkable feats of the honeybee colony. It is a time when the individual bee matters less than the warmth of the whole, and the hive becomes a single, breathing organism, waiting for the light to return. In this quiet, cold season, the bees will demonstrate a different kind of strength, not the strength of flight, but the strength of staying still together in the dark. As the frost begins to lace the edges of the hive's entrance, and the world outside falls into a deep, white silence, the honeybees perform their most miraculous feat of communal care. Unlike many other insects that perish in the cold or fall into a solitary frozen sleep, the honeybee colony remains very much alive, a small, glowing ember of warmth in the heart of the winter. When the air outside drops toward freezing, the bees draw closer together, forming what scientists call a winter cluster. This is not a random huddle, but a beautifully organized sphere of life. At the very center of this sphere, tucked away in the most protected and insulated space, sits the queen. She is the core, the living promise of the spring to come, and every other bee in the hive is dedicated to keeping her warm. To generate this heat, the bees do something extraordinary. They engage their powerful flight muscles, the same muscles that carried them through the summer meadows. But they do not flap their wings. Instead, they shiver. It is a subtle, internal vibration, a steady pulsing that converts their stored energy into pure, radiant warmth. Imagine thousands of tiny heartbeats, all vibrating in unison, creating a microclimate of summer in the middle of a blizzard. Even when the temperature outside the hive is well below zero, the center of this cluster remains a balmy 35 degrees Celsius. It is a sanctuary of heat, fueled by the honey they so carefully gathered during the golden months. As you lie there, perhaps tucked beneath your own blankets, you can imagine the texture of this cluster. It is soft, dense, and constantly in motion. The bees on the outermost layer, known as the mantle, act as a living insulation, their bodies pressed tightly together to trap every bit of warmth inside. But these outer bees do not stay in the cold for long. In a display of perfect selfless cooperation, the cluster is always slowly shifting. A bee on the chilly outer edge will gradually work her way inward toward the heat of the center, while a bee from the warm interior will move outward to take her turn as a shield against the cold. It is a slow, rhythmic rotation, an endless, gentle tide of movement that ensures no single bee is left to freeze. Feel the peace in that collective effort. There is no struggle, only a quiet, shared responsibility. The hive breathes as one, its temperature steady, its purpose clear. They are waiting. They are resting in the glow of their own making. This warmth is not just a physical state. It is a testament to the strength of the community. In the deepest dark of January, the hive is a place of absolute security. The wind may howl against the wooden walls, and the snow may pile high against the entrance. But inside, the air is still and sweet with the scent of beeswax and honey. The bees are not afraid of the winter. They have prepared for it, and they have each other. This ability to regulate their environment allows the honeybee colony to achieve a kind of immortality that individual insects cannot. While a single worker bee may only live for a few weeks in the height of summer, the colony as a whole is designed to endure. This winter huddle is the bridge between the years, a way to carry the spark of life through the harshest conditions. As the weeks pass and the days slowly begin to lengthen again, the cluster will remain, a steady, vibrating heart beating in the silence. It is this endurance, this cycle of gathering in the sun and huddling in the cold, that allows the hive to persist not just for a season, but for years and even decades. The individual bees are like the cells of a body, constantly being renewed, while the spirit of the hive remains unchanged, a continuous thread of life woven through the fabric of time. This thread of life is stronger and more resilient than the fragile wings of any single bee. While the individuals come and go, the colony itself possesses a remarkable longevity that borders on the eternal. A single honeybee colony, if left undisturbed in a hollow tree or a sturdy hive, can survive for decades, sometimes 30, 40, or even 50 years. It is a living legacy, a continuous presence in the landscape that watches the seasons turn and the forests grow. This is possible because the hive is a masterpiece of succession. It is never truly new or old, but rather a constant state of becoming. When the reigning queen grows old or the colony becomes too large for its space, the workers perform a quiet, instinctive task to ensure their future. They select a few young larvae and feed them exclusively on royal jelly, a nutrient-rich substance that triggers a profound biological transformation, turning an ordinary worker larva into a new queen. Imagine this transition, a soft internal shift where the old leadership prepares to pass the torch. Often, the old queen will leave with half the colony to find a new home, a process called swarming, while the new queen remains to carry on the lineage of the original hive. This ensures that the memory of the hive, its unique scent, and its collective wisdom are never lost. It is like a flame being passed from one candle to another. The light may flicker, but it never truly goes out. The bees themselves are physically adapted to this cycle. The winter bees we spoke of are biologically different from their summer sisters. They are born with more fat stores and a slower metabolism, allowing them to live for 6 months or more to bridge the gap between autumn and spring. When the first flowers bloom, they raise the summer bees, who live fast and work hard for only a few weeks. It is a rhythmic pulse of life, a long, slow breath in the winter, followed by the quick, energetic heartbeat of the summer. As you listen to the low, steady hum of these thoughts, let yourself sink into that same sense of continuity. You are part of a long, unbroken chain of moments. Just as the hive trusts in its own renewal, you can trust in the natural rhythm of your own rest. There is no need to hurry. The cycle of birth, work, and rest is the most natural thing in the world. The hive does not worry about the passage of time. It simply exists within it, moving through the years with a quiet, persistent grace. But the endurance of the hive is not a selfish thing. This long-lived colony does not exist in a vacuum. Its persistence through the decades is woven into the very health of the meadows, forests, and gardens that surround it. The bees do not just survive for themselves. They are the silent, humble architects of the landscape, and their long life is a gift to every living thing that grows toward the sun. The gift of the bee is one that reaches far beyond the wooden walls of the hive or the borders of the meadow. It is a quiet, visible thread that connects the natural world to our own lives in a way we often take for granted. It is estimated by scientists that honeybees, along with their wild cousins, are responsible for pollinating approximately 1/3 of every bite of food that humans eat. Think of that for a moment as you lie there. 1 out of every 3 things on your plate exists because a small fuzzy insect decided to land on a blossom. When you imagine a garden or a farm, you are seeing the result of their tireless, gentle labor. The crisp snap of an apple, the sweetness of a summer strawberry, the richness of an almond, and the vibrant colors of a pumpkin patch, all of these are the physical manifestations of a bee's visit. They are the silent partners in our world, working without credit or complaint. They do not seek reward. They simply follow the ancient call of the flower, and in doing so, they ensure that the world continues to bloom in abundance. There is something deeply peaceful about the humility of their work. A single bee may visit thousands of flowers in a single day, her body dusted with the golden life force of the plants. She does not know she is sustaining entire ecosystems or providing for civilizations. She only knows the scent of the nectar and the soft texture of the petals beneath her feet. Yet, through this simple, instinctive diligence, she creates a landscape of health and variety. The world is more colorful, more fragrant, and more alive because of her quiet presence. It is a reminder that even the smallest actions, when repeated with consistency and care, can change the entire face of the earth for the better. As we reflect on this immense, quiet contribution, notice how the atmosphere around our imagined meadow is beginning to change. The bright, high sun of midday has softened. The shadows of the tall grasses are lengthening, stretching out like long, dark fingers across the warm, cooling earth. The light is turning a deep, syrupy gold, the color of the very honey stored deep within the hive. It is that special time of day when the world seems to hold its breath, casting a final, glowing warmth over the entrance of the colony. The air is cooling slightly now, losing the sharp, dry heat of the afternoon and taking on the mellow, hushed quality of the approaching evening. The world is starting to settle. The frantic energy of the morning's work has transitioned into a slow, steady rhythm of completion. Just as the bees have finished their rounds for the day, having touched thousands of blossoms and ensured the growth of tomorrow's harvest, you too can feel the weight of your day beginning to lift. The work is done. The impact has been made. Now, the earth itself seems to be preparing to rest, basking in the final gentle rays of a sun that is slowly, gracefully sinking toward the horizon. The golden hour is here, and with it comes the promise of a quiet, undisturbed peace. The sun is now a sliver on the horizon, painting the sky in long, soft brushstrokes of lavender, deep indigo, and a dusty, muted rose. In this cooling air, the final foragers of the day are making their way back to the hive. You can imagine them as tiny, dark specks against the vast, darkening canvas of the squats, each one navigating with unerring precision toward the familiar scent of home. They carry with them the final treasures of the day, perhaps a few last drops of nectar from a wildflower that bloomed late in the afternoon, or a final dusting of golden pollen from a sun-drenched patch of clover. There is no haste in their flight now, only a steady rhythmic pull toward the center of their world. One by one, they touch down on the wooden landing board, their wings giving a final tired flutter before they crawl through the opening and into the safety of the hive's thick walls. As the light fades into the true blue of dusk, a subtle but vital change occurs at the entrance of the colony. The bees begin the process of narrowing the entrance for the night. In the wild, they might use propolis, that sticky antimicrobial tree resin, to physically seal up gaps and reduce the size of the opening. Even in a modern hive, the guard bees and workers huddle closer together at the threshold. This narrowing is a deliberate act of security and insulation. It creates a living wall that regulates the airflow, keeping the precious, hard-earned warmth of the interior from escaping into the chilly night air. It is a signal that the day's work is complete. It is the closing of the doors, the drawing of the curtains, and the locking of the gate. The outside world, with its vast distances and cooling winds, is being shut out. Inside, there is only the collective, wrapped in the scent of wax and honey. As you settle deeper into your own rest, notice how the sound of the hive is changing. During the peak of the afternoon, the hum was high-pitched and energetic, a frantic vibration of thousands of pairs of wings and the constant movement of a colony in high gear. But now, as the foragers return and the work shifts from the external world to the internal, the pitch begins to drop. It transforms into a low, resonant thrum, a deep, steady frequency that seems to vibrate through the very wood of the hive and into the cooling earth beneath it. This is the sound of thousands of bees breathing and moving in synchrony. It is a heavy, comforting sound, reminiscent of the low notes of a cello, or the distant rhythmic roll of a calm sea hitting a sandy shore. This thrumming is the pulse of the colony, a song of safety and survival that has been sung for millions of years. There is a profound sense of harmony in this final homecoming. Every bee that left the hive in the morning light has returned, or has given her full measure to the survival of the whole. The hive is now full, its many chambers occupied by those who have spent their energy for the good of the next generation. The stores are being tended to in the dark, the honey is ripening, and the queen is nestled deep in the heart of the waxen city, surrounded by her most trusted attendants. There is no more searching to be done tonight. There are no more maps of sunlight to follow and no more winds to navigate. The complexity of the day has been distilled into a single, simple state of being. Take a slow, deep breath and let your own mind mirror this closing of the hive. Just as the bees narrow their entrance to protect their sanctuary, you can allow the outside world to fade into the background. The tasks of your day, the noise of the world, and the light of the sun are all being sealed outside. You are here, in the quiet, in the warmth of your own space. The harmony of the colony is a gentle reminder that there is a time for movement and a time for stillness. The meadow is silent now. The flowers have closed their petals, waiting for the morning dew to arrive. And the bees, tucked away in their golden halls, have found their peace. The hum is steady, the air is still, and everything is exactly where it needs to be. In this final stillness, the hive has become something more than a structure of wax and a collection of insects. It is now a single, breathing entity of warmth and absolute safety. If you could see inside through the darkness, you would see no frantic movement, only a gentle, rhythmic pulsing. Thousands of tiny bodies are pressed together, sharing their heat, their heartbeats synchronized in a slow, steady cadence. It is a living blanket, a masterpiece of biological cooperation that ensures every member of the family is protected from the cooling night air. This is the ultimate sanctuary, a place where the collective wisdom of millions of years has created a perfect environment for rest. There is a profound biological reason why this environment feels so peaceful to us, even from a distance. Scientific observations have shown that the low-frequency hum of a healthy, resting hive has a measurable, calming effect on the human nervous system. The steady vibration, usually hovering at a frequency that mimics the natural rhythms of a calm heart, encourages our own bodies to downshift. It signals to our brain that the environment is stable, that the colony is secure, and that there are no immediate threats to attend to. When we listen to this ancient resonant thrum, our cortisol levels begin to drop, our breathing slows to match the hive's pulse, and our muscles lose their tension. We are, in a way, tuning ourselves to the frequency of nature's most organized and peaceful home. As you lean into this frequency, let the weight of your body sink fully into your bed. You are as secure as the queen in her royal chamber, surrounded by layers of protection and the quiet devotion of the world around you. The heavy scent of honey and the clean medicinal aroma of propolis fill the air of your imagination, creating a cocoon of comfort that moves with you as you drift. There is nothing left to do. There is no more information to gather, no more work to complete, and no more paths to navigate. Like the worker bee who has finally tucked her wings and lowered her antennae, you have reached the end of your journey for today. Outside the hive, the meadow we walked through earlier is now a sea of silver shadows and soft moonlight. The vibrant colors of the wildflowers have faded into shades of charcoal and mist, their petals tightly furled to protect their nectar for the coming dawn. The tall grasses are still, no longer swaying in the breeze, but standing as silent sentinels under the vast, star-drenched sky. The distant hum of the world has vanished, replaced by a silence so deep it feels like a soft velvet weight. The bees are still, the birds are quiet in the trees, the earth itself seems to be taking a slow, deep breath, holding it in the cool night air. You are part of this rhythm now. You are part of the great, quiet cycle of the natural world that knows exactly when to wake and exactly when to let go. The warmth of the hive is your warmth. The stillness of the meadow is your stillness. Your mind is like a calm, dark pool, reflecting only the softest light of the stars. Every thought is drifting away like a stray petal on a slow-moving stream, leaving you clear, peaceful, and ready for the deep restorative sleep that your body deserves. The hive is at rest, the world is at peace, and you are safe. Allow yourself to sink into the golden darkness, into the dreamless, healing quiet of the night. Sleep now. Good night.